I'm wondering about the notion of directness in terms of appreciating a work of art, maybe just in terms of viewing a work of art. My thoughts are not quite well formed yet on this topic, but I'm imagining that there are groups of people who prefer to directly experience a work of art and think that it would be not good to indirectly experience a work of art, even without really defining what those terms mean. But let's try to get into some particular cases. So let's say a person might want to go to the symphony and experience the symphony without having had some theories beforehand and understanding anything about the music, not having learned anything. They just want to go, hear it, be taken by the music, experience it directly for the first time. And that would be the sort of epitome of appreciation. Similarly, a person might want to watch a movie or a TV show for the first time, again, without any spoilers. No one has ever told them anything about it. No one has given them any heads up for what to look for or look at, that type of thing. Those are kind of in the cluster of ideas I think of in terms of directly viewing a work of art. Of course, you get into other aspects of it, like a person might want to learn a different language so that they can experience a poem that's in a different language. Like they want to learn Farsi so they can read Rumi's poems. I don't actually know if Rumi is written in Farsi, but you get what I mean. You want to learn Latin so that you can read whatever works of art are written in Latin. You want to read Hebrew, learn Hebrew so you can go back and read things that are written in Hebrew, things of that nature. But I'm interested in this because I've been reading The Beginning of Infinity, and in chapter 2, there's a chapter called Closer to Reality, and David Deutsch gives this very interesting example about the fact that people could, let's say at night, go outside and have a direct or close to direct experience of the stars. They can look up and there will be a little bit of air, there'll be a star, there'll be a little bit of air, and then there'll be their eye. And that is quite direct in comparison to an astronomer who would generally never look up at the stars. They would have some sort of telescope that translates the radiation from the stars and converts it into patterns that are displayed digitally via numbers on pages, and then have that be processed by various computers, and then that be displayed to a scientist and analyzed in some way. And then that analysis is given to another scientist, and then that analysis is given to another scientist, and then finally the output is given to a astronomer, and then that astronomer is seeing the stars through this indirect process with all these layers of interpretation in between. And when that happens, the astronomer is able to understand things about the star, understand the reality about the star. Whereas the person who is just walking outside and looking up, they experience things that are dim, lights in the sky that seem very small. They perhaps seem cool, and they're also usually flickering. These are the types of things that you can experience when you're experiencing the stars directly. But a person who is going through all of these layers of interpretation, they can experience the stars and understand that the star is very large, it's very hot, they don't flicker. So through this sort of indirect process of understanding, and rather an indirect process of experiencing the stars, the astronomer can better understand the star than a person who is directly experiencing the stars. And I'm wondering if that could follow to some type of analogy with a work of art. Now, a kind of a simple example would be, as I said, going to a symphony. A person might want to go to the symphony without any prior knowledge, without any prompting to what to listen to or pay attention to. They just want to go and feel the music. And for the first time, they don't want to think anything. They just want to be taken by it. Okay, you can imagine a person thinking that type of thing. But really, I think a much better way of experiencing classical music as symphony is to be prepared, as in you listen to many different recordings of it. You might listen and pause during the recordings. You might take notes. You might read the sheet music and follow along with the sheet music. You might listen to lectures from different people who have heard the music. And after you build up lots and lots of layers of interpretation, I mean, throw in that you learn music theory and all that kind of stuff. After you build up all these layers of interpretation, then when you experience the music, you can appreciate it with much more rich clarity. It's better to appreciate it when you have all these layers of interpretation in between the music. And in fact, the direct listening to it becomes quite secondary. So another thing for me is I like to the other example being the spoilers. Like I just think that spoilers are not an issue at all. In fact, I think oftentimes spoilers make works better. You watch something with a spoiler in mind, it makes it more enjoyable usually. And there are some works that are ruined when they are spoiled, hence the name spoiler. They get spoiled, but those works of art are not worth experiencing at all anyway. That's just my opinion, though. I'm sure that there are works of art that are somewhat worth experiencing, and they kind of can go through the culture and replicate into a single person's experience one time, and then kind of bounce off into other people and flow through all of society, and never replicating in the same person multiple times, because once you've experienced it the first time, it's spoiled, so you can't experience it a second time and enjoy it. But that's just not. I don't think most works of art are like that. Most movies are not like that. Most songs are not like that, and so on. That would be some grade A slop, and I don't want that. But it's kind of an issue to me because I feel like the analogy, it just doesn't fit right quite yet. I haven't figured out the analogy of experiencing a work of art and seeing the stars as an astronomer does through layers of interpretation. I haven't quite figured out that analogy. I think there's something wrong with it fundamentally. I'm not sure what, though. And then I don't know what are the ways to experience a work of art indirectly. So I want to start with that part, how to experience a work of art indirectly. I think having knowledge beforehand about what's going to happen in the work of art, that's kind of maybe a part of it. Something I like to do when I watch movies, I like to pause the movie and write down notes. So perhaps that's something that's kind of indirect. I'm not just experiencing the work of art supposedly as intended by watching it fully intact, uninterrupted. I pause it, I think about it, I rewind occasionally, I take screenshots, that kind of stuff. Same thing with music. I do like to rewind quite a lot. I don't take as many notes with music. Occasionally I do, though. So anyway, I kind of want to have a more robust idea of what it would mean even to experience a work of art indirectly versus directly. Another obvious way of indirectly experiencing work of art is just having somebody explain the work of art. Now, I like this. Okay, I didn't think about this. I like this. I am not a fan of anime. I'm just giving an example here. I am not a fan of anime, but I quite enjoy watching some YouTube videos that explain anime. Specifically, there are a few channels I know of that will go through the fight scenes in Dragon Ball Z and in that series, and they will explain all of the visuals and what's going on. They'll go through slow motion, kind of compare who's winning the fight at whatever point in time, and they'll go through all of the history of the characters, why they're fighting each other, have they fought before in the past, and what are the power scales, like all that kind of stuff. And I find that incredibly interesting, and I like it quite a lot.
The round starts with Buu remembering that he fought him before and humiliated him too. But Gohan's unwavering confidence is making Buu insecure. He feels the aura and has to step back. They both power up, but only one of them here has the composure. Gohan opens up first by sweeping the front foot. Buu off balance gets clipped with the back fist. He's hurt. Now he jolts back in for the follow-up. Buu doesn't know if it's going to be the right hand or the round kick. This is textbook Goku here. He's already honoring the outfit. Head kick lands flush. Boo sent sliding back before Gohan closes the distance. Boo pissed off here, winds up a huge shot, but nope. He's trying to use his reach advantage by pushing and framing with the arm, but Gohan's got the weight distributed on the back leg, chambers up to land a head kick.
And I'm definitely not watching, like I'm not watching literally the intended version of the show. I've never seen it. So there's something there about, something about that. I don't know. I'm just throwing a cluster of thoughts all there. I also had this experience recently where I watched a lot of Pluribus by watching the shorts that came out. So as the show was coming out, a lot of people were making clips, and I was just watching the clips, and I just really enjoyed the clips. Watching the clips out of order, no context at all, but the clips were good enough to, you're highlighting the best parts and they're interesting inherently. So I was enjoying that quite a lot. And eventually I did watch the show, but I liked watching the clips alone. Okay, so anyway, those are some areas of just kind of thinking about what it would mean to experience a work of art indirectly. All right, back to why it seems like it's not a good analogy. Okay, well, I guess the first reason is something I talk about in this channel a few times when I think about Thomas Kolka and Sheldon Richman. But those guys, they think of a work of art as analogous to a scientific theory. And I think I don't like that. I don't think a work of art is analogous to a scientific theory. I think a work of art contains, various scientific theories. I mean, not scientific, they contain various theories. They contain lots of knowledge. So the analogy would be the knowledge within it is like a scientific theory. Okay, but if I am saying that experiencing the stars is somehow like experiencing a work of art, something's just not right there. Something's just not right. I don't know what it is, but it's not right. Because a work of art is not like a star. A work of art is not like some sort of natural phenomena to be explained. Or is it? I don't know, maybe it is. So anyway, there's something there that is just not quite working. And I feel a little bit uncomfortable about that. And I don't know why it isn't working and why, what I'm kind of misunderstanding with this. So in any case, what do you think about this? I wonder, is it possible to experience a work of art indirectly and have that be better than experiencing the work of art directly? Or is it always best to experience the work of art directly? I'm going to guess, I'm just going to go on a limb here. Most people are going to say that experiencing work of art directly is the best way to go about it. I'm not so sure as of yet. All right. Thank you for watching this video. If you got this far in the Zachary Mizell aesthetics video, you got to be subscribed. Send me a comment. Let me know what you think. Tell me everything on your mind. Y'all take care.